Right then, so I've really put off making a video on Fury and really the heavyweight division and the state of it, and negotiations and the public relations and things of that nature, because, well, to be honest, when approaching subjects so volatile, it's extraordinarily difficult to actually garner the truth from it when things involving, especially the fighters the division involves, are always seem to change their mind, always seem to get stuck in negotiations, and there's always newfound context that doesn't seem to be unearthed until the following days, and then there's new information after that, and then there's new information after that. So I can't really approach these situations and come to any sensible conclusions, but I'm gonna speak my mind on it anyways, despite the fact that I might be completely wrong. But yeah, right, let's just approach it real quickly. So, since the Usyk-Joshua fight, there's been quite a bit of talks of the direction in which both fighters go afterwards. The desire of the fans is that they fight each other, Usyk and Fury. But it doesn't seem like they're going in that direction because they couldn't reach terms, and apparently they're having troubles negotiating with one another because their schedules do not fit. In the case of Usyk, he states that he wants to fight next year because he's, for one, nursing old injuries, so lingering injuries, so pre-existing injuries which have been, existed for probably years to this point. And he wants to come into the Fury fight at his best, so that's what he wants to do. In the case of Fury, he wants to, and also Usyk included, the fact that he's spent time away from his family and whatnot. In the case of Fury, he wants to get back out quickly because he's been, relatively inactive, and he wants to get out by December because, well, of course, he's been out since April when he fought Dillian Whyte. And he's only fought twice since the beginning of 2020 when he fought the rematch against Wilder. So, understandable on both sides. But obviously, there's been quite a bit of a mess that has gone around since then. The team of Usyk seems to have gotten frustrated and wanted them to, negotiate the fight for early next year, but were unable to get them to do so. And consequently, they want to have Usyk fight against Deontay Wilder. And in fact, they've gone to the lengths of actually stating that Usyk will be attending ringside at the Deontay Wilder versus Robert Helenius return match on October the 15th. So, yeah, they're properly serious about this. They're going to be looking to publicize themselves at the fight. And in my view, considering the direction Fury is taking against Joshua, they're probably both to some extent looking to, while they're in the middle of a sort of a bump in the road, they're going to be looking to market themselves even further. Because in terms of fan appeal and gates and revenue, these are really the two biggest fights both guys could take outside of fighting each other. And in the case of Fury versus Joshua is probably the biggest fight in the division, period, if you want to talk about gate and revenue. Now, in terms of site deals, I honestly do probably believe that the Saudis would potentially be able to pay more money for Fury to, say, fight Usyk. They'd probably be able to pay exorbitant amounts of money for that, as opposed to, say, Joshua against Fury in like Wembley Stadium. But nevertheless, I do think anyways that he's looking to take this fight, get his money now, knowing that if he's to fight for Undisputed and beat Usyk, he'll probably retire anyways. And in the case of Usyk, he's looking to fight Wilder because, well, he's looking to break into the American market. And he also knows that Wilder will be coming off of momentum after fighting against Helenius and picking up a victory. And the fact that, to be honest, in terms of American-born fighters, he is the biggest draw in this nation, especially in terms of heavyweights. And he's also fought in significant at least circling around the region of 1 million pay-per-view buy fights. That being the rematch with Fury in 2020. So Usyk, if he's to defeat Joshua and Wilder back-to-back, it's one thing to, defeat Joshua against the odds and, be the unknown guy that just upset the apple cart a couple of times. It'd be another thing for him to break into another market and defeat another one of the biggest names. Because subconsciously, in a lot of American fans' minds, and sometimes even consciously too, fighters, especially fighters from Eastern Europe, or, you know what, forget Eastern Europeans, just foreigners in general. If they don't defeat an American, for one of their major titles or as one of their premier wins, they don't really have the credibility that, say, an American fighter inherits effectively when they turn pro or win world titles. You have to kind of go the extra mile to prove your credibility a lot of the time. They might praise Usyk in the media when asked about him, but they're not going to go out of their way to hype him up or laud him with praise or achievements until he does something like that. And defeating Deontay Wilder would be a perfect way for him to introduce himself into the American market off the back of the momentum of beating Joshua. And if hypothetically, which I do think it'll probably happen anyways, he should be a big favorite in this fight. If Usyk is to defeat Wilder, say by a dominant unanimous decision, even if it's not in a particularly exciting or drawn out back and forth slugfest, even if it's, a boring unanimous decision victory, if he's to win by, a dominant decision, 11-1, 12-0, something like that, and not get dropped, people might point out that, well, Fury might have stopped him, but he also got dropped 4 times across 3 fights, whereas Usyk went in once and didn't get dropped a single time. So the potentiality for him to boost his name and to increase the hype around a potential Tyson Fury super fight through beating Deontay Wilder, who Fury has already defeated, whilst Wilder comes back against a credible guy in Hellenius and, continues to prove that he has something left, would be significant in my view for his earning potential. But, I think also much has been made of the fact that the fight hasn't gotten done yet, and now you have the fans going to war with one another. The Usyk fans say Fury is ducking, and the Fury fans say Usyk is ducking. The Usyk fans are saying that, well, Fury... At least I'm talking about, like, the average, fans of each fighters. The average Usyk fan is saying that, well, Fury's asked for $500 million. That's unrealistic. He's moving on to fight Joshua instead of fighting him. And in the case of Fury fans, they're saying, well, Usyk is pushing the fight back from December, when that was a fight that potentially they could have made at that date. Usyk decided he couldn't fight this year, so Fury is moving forward, and Usyk is avoiding the fight, and he's looking to fight Wilder, which could potentially push the fight back further. Now, that second point is true, but this is my problem with Tyson Fury fans stating that Usyk is ducking the fight. When you're Tyson Fury is someone who is unbelievably volatile. When you're approaching the talking stages of a negotiations, negotiating a contract, what you put out in the media and what you tell interviewers is going to be relevant, because then you can find a starting point for a purse split, for a date, for purses, and things of that nature. You can at least find a starting point. Then you can release, sensible offers. You can come up with a date. And Fury is a guy who consistently moves the goalposts, is unbelievably volatile, and spends way too much time clowning in the media. Let's just be honest. This is a dude, and a lot of people will attribute that to, well, that's just his personality. He just likes to clown around. He likes to say one thing and do another as a form of mind games. And to an extent that is true. He does do that in the form of mind games in like a press conference, yes, but to be honest, it's a part of his personality at this point. You kind of just have to accept the fact that he just has an incredibly, for lack of a better term, bipolar personality. The dude cannot make his mind up. When he's constantly changing the terms of negotiations that he is imposing upon his potential opponents, he's going to be incredibly difficult to negotiate with. I mean, just look at how he's approached these Joshua negotiations. Initially, the fight was supposed to be December the 17th, should I say. And now, after they had agreed to terms the first time, he wanted to push the date forward to December the 3rd. Joshua agreed to that. But I also kind of wonder, he also stated that he was willing to fight Joshua for free, for a stunt, and now apparently he's moved it to 60-40. He does want to get paid for it. He wants $500 million to fight Usyk, and suddenly he approaches the table with a reasonable offer for December the 17th, and he's unwilling to actually negotiate the fight. He's setting the terms, changing the terms. How are you supposed to negotiate with the dude? He's almost impossible to do so. And the reality is, he has not actually actively negotiated a fight through his own volition in about 3 years. Since the Otto Wallin fight, he's been contractually and lawfully forced into his last 3 fights. In the rematch with Wilder, he was contractually obligated to take that fight. In the trilogy with Wilder, which he tried to squeeze out of, once again, due to his own doings, and the fact that he pulled out of a December 5th date. He pulled out of a December 19th date in 2020. He pulled out of a July 24th date. He tried to make a Joshua fight in August the 14th of 2021, and he was contractually forced to fight Wilder in a trilogy, and that fight was made by law. He was ordered by the WBC, in fact, didn't even negotiate that fight, didn't even bother to negotiate that fight, really, and was forced to go to purse splits in which his promotional team with Frank Warren won, I believe with the backing of Bob Arum, because there's no way those motherfuckers had $40 million for that fight. And that's how that fight transpired. But now you're starting to see, I believe, and with Egis Klimas' own words, with how he's constantly moving the goalposts, with how he's constantly changing his mind, making ridiculous demands, then making sensible demands, then retiring, and then he's coming back, and now he's got another sensible, nope, ridiculous demand once again. He is a clown, and that's just the reality. I'm not even calling him a clown to be insulting. I'm saying that because he literally is a fucking clown. That is his personality type. That is how he operates, and he clowns around, whether it be in a professional setting or a non-professional setting. And people fail to make that distinction, so they just label it mind games, despite the fact that he's very clearly a mentally broken down dude. But anyways, man. And another thing I noticed between his 2 promoters, Frank Warren and Bob Arum, is the fact that those motherfuckers don't even agree on what the hell he's going to be doing. Bob Arum has come out in the media and stated that he does not want the, Joshua fight to come through, or it's not going to come through, or he's whatever. And Frank Warren is apparently adamant that they're very close to reaching terms. His own promoters are at a fucking standstill and don't know what the hell is going on with him because of how volatile he is. Apparently, in the case of Bob Arum, he wants a tune-up, and in the case of Frank Warren, he wants to make the Joshua fight. Clearly, this is an issue in regards to business. It's a difficulty that comes when you're negotiating with Fury, that he's going to consistently change terms, he's going to change his mind, and he's going to lay ridiculous offers that are going to get in the way of it. He has to be forced by law to make fights, or else he's going to look for a way out of them, or he's going to look to try to make ridiculous offers to get everything at his advantage, and that's what he's trying to do with Joshua right now. He was able to lure Joshua in to a December 17th date, and then, after agreeing to all the deals, now he wants to put Joshua at a disadvantage and have him fight mid-November or early December, as I cited previously. And if you can't see what I'm saying to be true, you're just a fanboy. I'm just being honest. It's just a fact. Like, I do not understand how you could possibly believe otherwise. But if we get Fury Joshua and Usyk Wilder, it's obviously second best, and I'm kind of tired of that in the division, but, good scalps on their resumes, I guess.